Hi, this is Kathy with Stamping with Her Father's Daughter. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in northern Michigan. We talked yesterday kind of about supplies that a new stamper maybe should get or what works with where. We talked a lot about adhesives, depending on the project. Today we're going to talk about a very basic beginning stamping, whatever you want to call it. It's S.I.P, stamps, ink, paper. To do any type of stamping, those are the three things that you need just for basic stamping. And then, of course, we talked about the adhesives, and today we'll talk about cleaning your stamps as well. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. So I made some cards. I went with just S.I.P, stamps, ink, and paper, and then I kind of went above and beyond, and I'll show you the tools that I needed to use for that. Okay, so this one is just a basic stamp set, and it's called Friendly Foliage. So this is what's in that. Just basically stamp this up. Now I did do two different colors. I did old olive and then a black. I just cut this out with my paper, my scissors that we talked about yesterday, these little snips, which you can get these on Amazon. I think there's something called a B, something B. There's also Tim Holtz scissors. And I'll tell you why these are kind of important just for doing some of the tasks that we can do. So this one is just basically the stamp. I stamped another piece of paper. I took, you can kind of tell that there's a little border on there. All I did was I took a marker and I just brushed it around the edges. So that's just stamping, glue. I used two different inks. That's it. Okay, for the next card, again, this is just stamps, ink, and paper. I stamped the same image. I stamped the same image here, but I also did it in black and outlined it. I used a little piece of black paper to kind of pop that up, not pop it up, but just make it stand out. And then I also used some designer series paper, DSP. It just has a little texture to it. It's just not a solid. And that was the background. So still stamps, ink, and paper. And it's, I think they're simple, but they're pretty. Okay, the next one, stamps, ink, and paper, and I added just one embellishment. So the same stamp, I've got the paper border, the Sending Love sentiment in black. I did the same thing where I did the black around that. Put the little black background, black paper. Everything is flat. I just added this little embellishment, which is just some twine, or baker's twine, I think they call it. It's old olive, the same color as the ink here, and the same coordinating color as the designer series paper. So still taking up just one little notch. I think they're both very pretty. So the next one, stamp, ink, paper. This is the same thing. I did one more border with black. So I added another layer. I did the twine, and I did the same thing with the Sending Love sentiment in black, and then did the edges with the black marker. But this time I added a few embellishments. I don't think we have these anymore, but they're little dragonflies, and they're in gold. So it's just taking it up another level. Do you need to do that? Not necessarily. It's just totally preference. So these two are similar. Just added the extra black border, and then the embellishments with the gold dragonflies. Okay. This one, I did it all in black. A few more layers. It's still stamps, ink, paper, but I added a texture here. This is an embossed piece of paper, and we'll talk through the tools after I'm done showing you the cards. I popped this up with some dimensionals, but other than that, there's embossing. I did another layer. It's still pretty basic other than the embossing layer. This is still flat. I popped this up with some dimensionals, but another just creative layer to do for your cards. Okay, now this one, we're going to get a little more involved. And actually the last one I did cut this part out with an embossing or a die, and I'll show you the die cut machine. So this one still stamps, ink, paper. I actually used a die cut called Everyday Arches to do the black layer and the green layer. Stamp this the same, and there's actually a die cut for this piece. Sending Love was done the same, although I did punch this out with a die, like a punch, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then I added the dragonflies. So not a whole lot of difference, just a few more embellishments. This one, again, similar. I added a textural layer here of white. I used the DSP Designer Series paper in Old Olive. There's a little texture in that. I cut this out, so the die cut that you get can either cut the large area or it can cut the middle area as well. So if you can see the one on the right, I hope that's the same for you, the middle area was also cut out. Then we talked about our adhesives yesterday. I used the strips, the foam strips, to pop this part up. So that would be, you know, a little more of a textural element. I used an embossing folder to get this texture. I used some baker's twine to wrap around. I wrapped it around this layer before I glued it down. And then one other element that I did was embossing. So if you can see this has got a little bit of, you can see the shine. So I used a Versamark pad. I stamped the same sentiment. I used white embossing powder, and then I used the embossing gun, and I'm going to show you all of those things later. So do you need these things? Not necessarily. Do they add a little more depth and a little more shebang to your cards? Sure, but not necessary. I also added something called a wink of Stella. If you can see that little glitter, it's a little marker brush pen that's just kind of a clear glitter, which I really like. Okay, the next one, pretty much a stamp ink paper, other than I did die cut this piece and the inner piece. I used a different die to create this, it's called the branching out. Background paper. I used a punch for this Sending Love, and then the black, but very similar. So that's it for those. So then I'm going to show you a few things you can do with your envelopes. So what I used to create these cards was basic white note cards and envelopes. So you get a package of envelopes and then the note cards. I'm not exactly sure how many are in, but I made all of those, and then I still have this much left. So these are all scored for your benefit, and then you fold them in half and create your projects. So some of the other things I used for this, when I had the envelopes, I did two different things. I used some of that Designer Series paper just to dress it up a little bit. I just laid the flap out and traced it and cut around it, so it just looks a little more finished. That's one way you could do an envelope. And then this one, I just did one of the stamps from the set and stamped down in the corner here because I know it's not going to obstruct mailing or anything like that. Okay, so we talked yesterday about the snips. So scissors that have a tinier edge like this are great for creating banners and cutting out images. So what I did for most of mine, let's find an example. Like this one right here, all I did was take the end right here. I snipped up as far as I went in the middle, and then I just had to add corner to middle and corner to middle, and that made that little design. So yes, do you need to have the punch to do this? Not necessarily. It depends what you want. You can do it the same with some of these paper snips, the shorter ones. Another thing that I have a die cut for this, but do I need it? Not necessarily. You can do something called fussy cutting. Fussy cutting, the paper does all the work. The scissors are there, but you move the paper, and you can get a very good cut. Of course, it's going to take a little bit longer than having a die cut to cut out this flower, but it's doable. So again, when you want to look at what you want to invest into your paper making or card making, you know, you have options. But this really isn't that hard. So a lot of our bundles will come with a stamp set and then a die cut set that would cut this out. But you could use your trimmers here, your paper snips. Okay, so that didn't take me that long. I didn't finish that, but that's just an option there. Of course, you're going to need some blocks to adhere your stamps. You could get these somewhere else, but you're going to need to look at the stamps and see the size. So like this one, this larger stamp block, which I believe is block E, I needed it so this stamp could stick on it because this is a larger stamp. Okay, I probably could have done a little bit smaller, and then I used a smaller stamp, block E, for this. And there's all different sizes. You can get these anywhere, but I do like, they're kind of ergonomic with the way you can hold them with this little indentation. It kind of makes it nice. You can move them. So you will need some sort of blocks to start your stamping. Then, let's see what else we have here. So I did do some embossing or some die cutting. So this is our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and it has some plates that come with it. So for this piece, oops, I used some dies. They're metal, and I didn't pop these out yet. So I put this piece and this piece on a piece of paper and put it through here, and you get plates, and there's instructions on how you do this to cut that out. So do you need it? Not necessarily. I did plenty of cards without it. This one, this card used both, where you can see the middle was cut out here, but then this card, I just used this piece and I didn't cut out the middle. Okay, so a lot of options there. Okay, what else? Oh, so you will need to be able to clean your stamps. You can use a baby wipe, will work just fine. Or you can get one of these, it's called a Simply Shammy. It's just a chamois that you wet and rinse, and it gets dirty. But then you can take your stamps, clean them, pull them off, and you're all set to go. So is it necessary? No, but it's a nice option for traveling, and I just put it in one of the stamp cases for me. So the card here that has the embossed Sending Love. So with that, you would need to get the embossing tray. This is a static chamois, so what I did was I brushed over this just to get some static off of there. You stamp the image with a Versamark, which is just a clear ink. And then you sprinkle on the embossing powder. I used white. When you emboss it with the embossing gun, which is this, you can hold it so you don't burn your fingers, and it basically melts that embossing powder. And then you can tap it in your tray. There's a brush to clean it all up, and then there's a nozzle to put the embossing powder back in the container. So these powders will last a very long time. Do you need it? No. Is it cool? Yeah, I really like embossing. It's kind of fun. Okay, so then for this one and this one, I did use a punch. So this is a punch that will do 3 different types. Again, you could do this with your snips like I showed you before, but it's kind of nice for smaller wording. You can just punch them out. It's very easy. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, the one, let's find. Okay, this one had the glittery on top. Do you see that? I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there you go. So this is a brush called Wink of Stella, and it's just a brush marker. You pull this off, and it gives you a really cool little sheen. So do you need it? No. It's just, it adds a little touch of magnificence, I guess. What else do we have? Oh, okay. These were the everyday arches that I used. This is a die cut that I used. So the die cut machine that I showed you is the mini. We also have a larger one. This would encompass up to, I believe, 3 inches. So you would be able to do most of these dies in this smaller one, but the largest one, you might need to have the bigger Stampin' Embossing machine. Okay, and then this is our Stampin' Pierce Mat. So this is great to get a good solid image when you're stamping something. It's foam, or if you're doing something with this tool that we talked about yesterday, the piercing tool with the putty end. So yeah, if you're doing something, you can poke into this and you're not going to ruin your surface. So that's just, do you need it? No, I like it. I think that might be about it. I'm going to show you a few other cards that I did with the S.I.P method, stamps, ink, and paper, and then I gradually added on to them. So here's a basic paper stamp. I lined this. I cut this out with just scissors, super basic. Then I went a little bit more. I added the designer series paper here. Same thing here, didn't color in the image, just that's it. The next one, we're just stepping it up a little more, was same black and white image. I added a few bedazzled embellishments. I added a little bit of the baker's twine behind here, popped this up, and another embellishment there. Then the next level was coloring the flower. I used our blending markers. I think this was Timid Tiger. I used a little bit of that Wink of Stella in the middle, some embellishments here, and the same with the baker's twine, same the black. Basically same as this card, only in color. And then the last version I did was where I actually used the die cut machine to cut this flower out. I used the die cut machine to cut out the leaves. And then I added some embellishments down here. This is actually like the stamen, the middle part that I cut in the same color, and added these little gold embellishments. So yeah, do you need all the stuff? Not necessarily. You got to figure out what works for you. So I will have the numbers, the order numbers that go with these products that I use. If you are interested in it, email me again if you need a catalog at stampinwithherfathersdaughter@gmail.com. YouTube is right here, and then this is my online store, which you can access through my YouTube channel as well. So I hope I taught you a little bit about some basic stamping techniques. My next video will be a kit video, which is another basic stamping technique where you get all the supplies you need in one kit. So we'll do that together. I hope you have a lovely Friday, and we will talk soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.